It's Eldad and Amara, and this is my channel, Eyes Wide Shut. You know what? Yesterday I was just thinking to myself, there's so much that's been going on over the last 10 or so years, right, in the UK. How this society is becoming so dystopic. George Orwell, he wrote a book called 1984, and I can see so much things that he's been saying in this book seems to be coming into fruition. Just over the last few years, the amount of things that's just happened in the UK, and it's not just the UK, but also worldwide, the USA and Australia, Canada, to name but a few other places. But listen, man, how did we get here? How did we get here? How did we get into this situation? I wrote a few things down here, which I'd like to kind of share with you. All right. We've got a act right now called the Terrorism Act. There's been other acts as well, okay, such as the Terrorism Act of 2006, and we've got the Anti-Terrorism and Crime Security Act of 2001. But this act, right, this Terrorism Act, which came out in the year 2000, right, talking about the Palestinians. Right now, the Labour government have recently put a clause in to say anybody supporting terrorist groups, factions like Al-Qaeda, right? If you go out on the streets and you protest, you might end up in prison, been in prison for 14 years for a silent protest. Now, it's not like these people are going out to cause any problems. They're just going out and silently protesting against what's going on between Israel and the Palestinians, especially where it's involving kids. And they're going out there giving their support against what's going on between the Palestinians and the Israelis. They're not going out to cause problems, but just merely to silently protest about what is going on. And now they could be locked up under this 2000, is it 2000 or 2001 Terrorist Act? The Labour Party's putting a clause there. What is going on? How did we get here that people can't go out and silently protest now? Now this is going to spread to other groups who want to go out and start protesting. You might end up getting 14 years imprisonment and a fine for protesting. Shouldn't this be a natural human right? If you're going out and you're silently protesting, you're not causing any problems, you're not burning down buildings, you're not fighting police officers, you're not destroying property or cars or anything. If you take away people's right to silently protest, then what's going to happen? What's going to happen? It's going to come out in another way. Okay? It's going to be vented in another way. They're taking away people's rights to protest. And it's going to start spreading to other groups in society soon. Those doctors and nurses, teachers and all the rest of them who want to go out and protest, they could end up being locked up. Because believe you me, this Terrorism Act is going to spread to other groups. How did we get here? I just wonder, how did we actually get here? Another thing, we have the DWP, that's the Department for Work and Pensions, right? And they've got a fraud act which has come out now, right? Where government can go into people's bank accounts and have a look and see if they're committing fraud. To see if they're committing fraud. And they don't need to go to courts in order to get an injunction to go into people's bank accounts. They can actually just go straight directly into people's bank accounts and either stop their money, right, or take money out of their accounts. Man, how did we get here? Because you know that this act is going to be overreaching. It's going to affect other people, other groups in society. They'll start with one group first, such as those on benefits, but eventually it'll start going into other groups in society where they'll be taking out money out of people's accounts if they say something or do something that the government deems to be a threat to them. How do we get here, people? How do we get here? We're becoming a dystopic society. The online safety bill, which has been given raw assent by King Charles. Okay, that's now an act. It's not a bill now, it's an act. So I kind of agree with the online safety bill to a certain extent because, you know, children get abused online. Yeah, there's adults pretending that they're children and so forth. And children need to be protected, okay, from abuse. From abuse. And it's not just children, but even things to do with racism and sexism. Yeah, people need to be protected, and I can see the point in that act, right? The online safety bill. But the other side to this is that the government has far-reaching powers, and they can sometimes abuse these powers. The online safety bill is also being used for other things, such as if someone says something online that the government deem, again, to be offensive, or they turn around and they have an opinion about something, all right? It could be this injection thing, which people are in 2020. If you say something that they don't like, or you say something against an MP or against a policy, you could end up having your bank account, yeah? You could end up being taken down off of line. It's happened to some people already where they've made certain remarks about certain things. And next thing, the police come around to their house and taken away their equipment. Taken away their equipment. The rights to free speech is slowly being eradicated, people. It's been eroded. Free speech. You turn around and say something about the government or about a certain MP, and the government don't like it, they can come round and take away your equipment, arrest you, and put you in prison. Put you in prison. How do we get to this stage? How did we get here, people? How did we get here? We're becoming a dystopic society. Check out 2019 and 2020 when the whole world were locked down and people had to take this thing in their arm, the BAP. People had to take that thing in their arm. And guess what? It caused a massive rift between certain groups in society. There was people, family members saying, don't come around here if you don't have the... And there was employees also saying, you have to take the thing in your arm. If you don't take it, you can't work. And every Thursday, people used to be out and used to clap hands. Yeah, used to clap their hands and thanking the NHS and the nurses and doctors for all the hard work that they were doing and under the stress that they were under. And some were putting their own lives at risk through helping patients. Now, when some nurses and doctors decided that they weren't going to take this thing, guess what? The same people are clapping their hands every Thursday, then turn on them. Yeah? And even some of their own workmates turn on them because some said, like, I don't want to take this thing right now. It's too soon. It needs to be tested more before I take it. Okay? It needs to be properly tested. And so some who would ordinarily take the thing, yeah, for other diseases, said like, no, it's too soon. I just want to wait and see, right? Before I take this thing. That's how it's going to work out. How it's going to work out. People were standing 6 feet apart from each other and had to put on a mask over their face. People's personal details were being collected by some organizations. People had track and trace, okay? Track and trace system, yeah, with this QR code. And now they're talking about the possibility that there might be another lockdown of a more larger. That first one was a big thing where the whole world literally got locked down, but this next one is going to be, believe you me, much, much worse. How do we get to this stage, people? How did we get here? How did we allow this to happen where we have less and less freedoms now? Surveillance cameras everywhere in the UK. Everywhere. APNR cameras. Collecting your biometrics. You go into shops and you got these cameras watching you. Scanning your eyes. Scanning the way you walk. Scanning what you're picking up and putting into your trolleys. Just watching every aspect of your life. Looking at the way that you walk, talk, who you're walking with. You got these cameras in petrol stations. You got them in stores, as I say again, right? You got them on the roads. And they're surveilling people, watching people 24/7. How did we get to this stage, people? It's like the government don't trust anybody. They don't trust their own citizens. They say that these cameras are there for your own protection. For your own protection. You got them also in airports. Every time people go out and protest or strike, it seems that the laws get tightened up even more and more. And we have more of these cameras watching us 24/7. 24/7. How do we get here, people? How do we reach to this state of such a dystopic world? What's another one? In the UK, now you have ULEZ, which is the ultra low emission zones. ULEZ, ULEZ for short, ULEZ. If you drive into city centres, you have to pay a certain fee to enter the city centres. And I can't remember how much a day that people have to pay to go into the centres of cities. So now you got people, they call them the Blade Runners in London, and they're cutting down the ULEZ signs and the cameras. They're cutting down the ULEZ signs and the cameras. People are starting to protest. Why is it that they have to pay so much money to go into the city centre? How that's eaten into people's personal incomes. Now, you have WEF, which is World Economic Forum, and the UN. They talk about this thing called sustainable goals, yeah? Trying to protect the environment from things such as carbon emissions. So they've created this thing now, ULIS. But also attached to ULIS is something else, which is called the smart cities. They're trying to create smart cities, and they're trying to create them in the UK, in cities here such as, let me read them out, cities such as London, Bristol, Birmingham, Manchester, Newcastle, Edinburgh, okay? As well as some other cities. But some of these councils in these cities already signed up to this for these smart cities or these 15-minute cities. They've also come under the guise of names such as, they also come under guise as names such as livable neighborhoods, yeah? They come under the guise also of livable neighborhoods and other names also. But the intention is still the same, to have these 15-minute cities. Is this going to be like a kind of digitalized prison for people? They can only come out of their areas certain times of the day or certain times of the week. Was this thing in 2020 merely a trial, keeping people locked in their boroughs, in their neighborhoods, in their districts? How did we get to this, people? If that is the case, how did we come to this state? How is it that people are losing their humanity and their freedoms? How is it that there's some people just accepting, just acquiescing to anything that the governments want to push on them? And every single day, we're losing just a little bit more freedom. And we have to be careful about almost everything that we say, everything that comes out of our mouths. How did we get here, people? How did we get here? How did we get here? How did we get here? There's so many policies and laws that have been passed without the consent of citizens. Without the consent of citizens. And we're supposed to be living in a democracy, in a democratic society. If we're living in a democratic society, that means that the government are there to represent the people. But how many policies, how many of these laws that are passed do the people actually vote or agree on? How often is there consent asked for? To have things put on them such as community charges, to have things put on them such as cameras watching them everywhere they're going, and cameras in the back of police cars scanning their biometrics without their consent. How is it that you got 5G towers being put up in the middle of the night by the military and nobody knows about this? And how many people have agreed to that, to these 5G towers? How is it that you have so many different terrorist acts that have been passed in the UK since year 2000? How is it that the DWP can now go into people's personal bank account details without their knowledge and stop money or take money out without their consent? And now they don't have to go and get a warrant or some kind of document from the courts in order to do this. How do we get here, people? I sat back yesterday and I thought, man, there's so much restrictions on us as human beings now. so much restrictions. But how did we get here? How did we get here? How did we get to this Orwellian type society, this dystopic world, where our rights have been stripped away from us every single day? How did we get here? This is Amara with another video, and if you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Thank you, Eldad.